is bridging the gap from legacy to legal markets through education, events, and advocacy. This podcast addresses mental health challenges facing urban communities like North Lawndale, economic development, employment, violence prevention, and combating the war on drugs. Our goal is to encourage communal resilience and strategic growth by taking a holistic approach to entrepreneurship with a focus on mental health and wellness.
Whitney Smith serves as Deputy Director and Counsel at Lawndale Christian Development Corporation, spearheading efforts to revitalize affordable housing in North Lawndale. With oversight of a $1 million revolving fund, Whitney drives the redevelopment of vacant properties and promotes home ownership in the area. Additionally, she leads an economic initiative to foster small business ownership through cooperative ventures. In this fourth episode of the 72 Flavors podcast with Dave Traps, Whitney will be sharing her insights on how critical necessities like housing, employment, and economic development may affect citizens of underserved communities like North Lawndale, as well as resources for small businesses and home ownership available through her organization. Be sure to check out their website at lcdc.net and subscribe to the 72 Flavors podcast on YouTube and all podcasting platforms for more mental health resources.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. Good things are up. We're doing everything from business incubation to affordable housing, both rental and homeownership. We're organizing with North Lawndale residents for power. Yeah.
That's dope.
That's a lot.
So
and then we have commercial development that we do as well.
So I hear that DC on the end, like the development corporation. That's big. So because it's a lot of money in North Lawndale right now in terms of like development.
Yeah, we have a data book that's on our website, lcdc.net, that we commissioned with UIC a couple years ago, and I think it's been updated. But it showed and bared out that $124 million leaves North Lawndale every year.
You said what?
$124 million leave North Lawndale every year.
So what are you saying? Like that's how much money, like in terms of like if it was like a cycle, that's how much money.
I wish it was a cycle. It's not a cycle.
So that's how much money is like
poof out the door.
Yeah.
Like it never happened.
So it's basically it's getting smaller.
You know, we aren't fortunate enough presently. We're getting there. But there are other communities where, to your point, the dollar goes over in that cycle multiple times. You got Little Village, you got Chinatown, you got communities like that where it goes over 12 or 24 times from resident to merchant to other merchant to nonprofit, back to the residents, so on and so forth. That doesn't happen in North Lawndale. The money that comes into North Lawndale via people leaves because you have to leave the neighborhood for any resource you would want. Almost every resource you would want. So your groceries, your leisure.
So does that mean that like, damn, that's kind of crazy a little bit. So basically.
So it's there.
Because I mean, people talk about that like when I'm from South Shore, so people talk about that when I was growing up, like, man, all these so and so, insert demographic here. Opening all these stores or opening all these businesses.
And money's there.
But that money goes to those stores.
And those people take it and they go back to their suburban homes with their families. Yeah, absolutely.
So essentially,
there's a market there, a viable market that's untapped. And I like to think that some of the work we do is about market correction. And, you're in a business where the legalization of this product is making it easier for businesses to pop up that service the market that was already there, right? North Lawndale is in a position where, because of racism and white supremacy and disinvestment over the years and blight, the market won't step in and meet the needs of residents. So you have to have organizations like LCDC that are willing to step in and provide for those needs. And I think there's what needs to happen for people to get what they need, but I think there's also an opportunity there for the residents of the community to write their own future, right? Because if we did have a bunch of companies coming in from outside the community, they would be making the rules.
What do you mean? Like,
You know, like Starbucks tried it in 2008, 2007, 2006, right before 2008. And you got to play by Starbucks rules when you walk into Starbucks' establishment.
like they hire, but it's like
They hire who they want. Their hours are what they want. They serve what they want, right? Like, not everybody in North Lawndale want a frappa macchiato with white smoked chocolate, whatever, right? That's
in demand here.
That speaks to our culture and our population. But when you're doing it for yourself the way that we are, we can be culturally competent because we live it, we know it, you know.
Ourselves. Like we
can market to
one
ourselves
another because we're from the culture, we're from the community, which y'all are trying to like build on. It's like more businesses that are like
I would say more ownership of all kinds in the hands of local residents, whether that be anchoring them through buying homeownership, and so they're buying a home, or participating in our cooperative business development, you know.
That's
just
super
more
interesting.
local ownership.
Cooperative business development. You were telling me about that earlier.
I was, because I'm trying to get you to do it.
See what you're doing, and it makes me think like, well, you know, that's kind of nipping a lot in the bud, because like mental health really starts like in the home, with your family, secure environment.
You're exactly right. All of that, you know, it goes to a person's psyche and your sense of self. If the home you live in is, well, first of all, if it's a stable one where everybody's not stressed out about increasing rents, which is the story of everybody in this city and most of the people in this country, but also if it's an attractive one. So, you know, you look around, the faucet works, the doors are fully functional, like the floors are in place and sturdy, and then it's beautiful. And then, you know, you walk outside, to your point, and there are businesses that are marketing to you because they find value in you, right? And so it goes to the psyche of the person experiencing all of these things. It's much easier to value yourself in a world that values you than what, you know, Black folks have had to deal with in this country and in this community. It's
much easier to value yourself in a world that values you. That's dope. I ain't gonna lie. I definitely gotta say I agree to that. Round of applause. Because I mean, I feel like you said, that's the whole thing with all these beautifications, like these little gardens popping up in the lots and stuff like that. You know, I mean, that's great, but it is great because I mean,
it's a step.
It's a step because beautification of your neighborhood. Like, first of all right, let's take care of what we do have. Let's tend to the land. Let's show.
Come on, tend to the land.
It's our land, especially like in our communities when you talk about South Shore, North Lawndale, like these is places where people like, it's got a lot of things going on in the culture, and people are, you know, people have died in these areas and on these blocks over different things, you know what I'm saying, that are like not what we here for, you know what I'm saying? But when you see people building gardens or like doing different things and putting their hands in the soil and doing different things, taking the kids outside, showing them how to make gardens, you know, stuff like that. Just the beautification of just beautifying your community. Like you said, your walk to school in the morning as a kid, seeing a little fly dove change your day.
You know, there's never a situation where we little anybody's big moment, right? So that's big. Because it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. I think, you know, there's talk in the Bible, you know, we're a faith-based organization, about how we are meant to be stewards of the land. And that's where you are. It doesn't mean wait till you get where you want to be a proper steward. So, yes, absolutely. Let's be good to what we have. But I also think it brings attention to the fact that how many vacant lots are there, right? Like everyone can't be a garden. And in North Lawndale, there are 3,000 vacant lots. And, you know, by our math, the city of Chicago owns 1,000 of those vacant lots. And that's why we're so thrilled to have Brandon Johnson and COO John Roberson, who've just made it a commitment to the organizers that are working on our Reclaiming Chicago campaign to give us 500 of those vacant lots in across the city's south and west side. 125 of those we're going to get this year so that we can build new single-family homes on those. And I'd love to have you out so you can see these homes. But they're beautiful, you know. Part of what it, you know, being from the community myself and being a part of this work and designing these homes and developing these homes, I said to our architects and I said to my teammates, I want to build a home that could be anywhere. The work to bring affordable housing, single-family home ownership opportunities to North Lawndale isn't about what we do for the house, what we do in construction to bring the house into the reality. It's about the organizing work we do on the back end to make sure that the money is there to make it affordable. We're just building houses, but our organizing work is making sure it's affordable. And I want to be clear about that because people hear affordable housing and think it's less than, and it's not. These are beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes that I purposefully designed with a thought like, if I were going to live in it, what would I want? And that means that there's an island in the kitchen and there's a pocket door in the ensuite bathroom on the second floor, and the laundry room is on the second floor because who wants to haul their clothes from the second floor to the first floor every day
All back.
to do their laundry?
Because I need somewhere to sit the hot pots and I'm cooking multiple things. I got
Exactly.
stuff going on.
Thanksgiving requires an island with all these people in the kitchen. But so yeah, and that's what we've done. That's the commitment we've gotten from this administration. But you know, it was different over, you know, we've been at this for 2 mayors now, and it's been different across the administrations. And it's been a journey to get the support and the buy-in we've needed from all our aldermanic officials, but we've gotten there, and we're so appreciative of their partnership, and we want to make sure that, you know, this next 500 lots that we get is just the beginning, because we're trying to do 2,000 homes on the city's south and west side. Can you imagine what that would do for the city to have 2,000 more single-family homes meant to go for working class families in Chicago?
That would be. And we talking like different kind of homes too, like not just like bungalow homes.
None of them are bungalow.
Like South Shore, like, cause you know, I'm from South Shore, so like a lot of homes in my community are like bungalow homes. And I know that the bungalow homes came from like, wasn't it like during the war
Reconstruction
times
and all that
like
stuff.
They were meant for like a lot of people coming home from the military to be able to
World War
use their
II.
money. Right, to use the money to build.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, to use those homes as like starter homes. And we're not the suburbs, so we can't do your traditional one house that we just replicate. We're doing a diverse pool of exteriors so that there's some
Diversity.
aesthetic difference in there, and people, you know,
That's dope.
get what they need in terms of
That's
the
dope.
appearance of it, and feel like it speaks to who they are and how they want to represent themselves. Because this is the big purchase, and it's gonna be the forever home for most of the people who buy.
I ain't gonna lie, because a home, when you buy a home, I got a wife, you know, 4 kids, so
You want to pass that down. It's
that's
generational
something-
wealth.
And that's something that you want to be in your family, a place that's like a home HQ.
And for you, for the buyer, you know, for the adults in this situation, it's an investment, right? For the kids, it's a place of safety. It's a
Security.
It's a legacy. It's a part of their family because they grow up in that backdrop, in that setting. So yeah, I mean, I think about my family home. My grandmother, I would just put a picture of her on Instagram. But her and her siblings, there were 16 of them, born and raised in Mississippi, and they moved to North Lawndale. She came to Chicago in 1944. So my family's been in the community since then. And our family homes, you know, still on the west side of Chicago in North Lawndale, and it's still in our family. And what a blessing that is. But that house is more than just like bricks and paint and whatever. It's a setting for all my favorite memories. It's a setting for kind of reveling in that connection with legacies of my relatives that aren't here anymore. Like my grandmother, you know, this might sound morbid, but she died in that house. And yeah, that's what these homes will be for other people.
when we talk about our community, our people, and just to wrap it back to the mental health aspect of it, like, I feel like, you know, like you said, no, I don't feel like that's morbid at all, because just to have that level of understanding of your own, who you are, you know what I'm saying, to be able to, you know, your family, because my family is kind of different, you know what I'm saying, and as a lot of families are, you know what I'm saying, but we working to establish what you're talking about, like that. It's power in that, being able to look back and think, or ride past your house and think about all the warm things that you've done, or how it made you who you are.
To a legacy and a history that's so powerful. You know, my dad's side of the family, also from Mississippi, he didn't move to Chicago until he was 18. But I remember the day I realized, because I went to like Carleton College for undergrad in Minnesota, and I was an African American history minor. And I remember the day I realized that Fannie Lou Hamer worked and organized in the same, like, Rouville, which is the county, no, it's Sunflower County, so Rouville is a town that my dad lived and grew up in. And I was like, wait a minute. I immediately called him. I was like, were you there? Like, what was that like? But that connection across time is so powerful.
And affirming.
And affirming, yeah.
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 My sister, I love my sister so much. And she's always says that, you know what I'm saying? That family is more than, like, family is more than friends. And not really, because friends become family, but family is when you look in the mirror, you see them, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. When you look in your like, when I look at my son, when I look at my wife, or my father, or my sister, I see myself, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, it's just a level of love. It's like, just,
it's different.
And it builds self-love.
Exactly.
I feel like we were talking about earlier when we were talking about that walk to school, that walk to the store. That's self-love. When you look at your community and you're like, damn, like, I really love being here. I like hearing this music. I like smelling these smells. Yeah,
and that's how I grew up in North Lawndale, and that's what I want for the next generations, plural, right? Like, that's why it's, you know, it's roughly 30,000 people in North Lawndale right now. At this heyday, it's probably 150 people, 1,000 people in the neighborhood. And there's a reason why Dr. King lived in North Lawndale.
Dr. King lived in North Lawndale?
On Hamlin and 16th.
What?
When he came to Chicago to do his Poor People campaign. Because the neighborhood's always been a space where people have gone without. But even in the midst of all of that, it's always felt like a true, genuine families support families kind of community.
Definitely.
The fact that there's a difference between material poverty, so not having money, and poverty and wisdom and knowledge and heritage, right? And it's never been that. You know? There's still people who live in North Lawndale, who lived in North Lawndale when King was there, and can tell that story about how none of the black churches on the south side wanted Dr. King to come and preach at their churches, because the dailies were like, if you let that happen, we'll make sure you regret it. City, but you know what the west side always has been?
Gangster.
3 churches on the west side were like, what you gonna do worse than what's already happening? We see you. And one of those churches was Stone Temple on Douglas, and that's one of the churches he preached at when he was here. One of the few. I think he got to like 4 churches. He left Chicago feeling like a failure because he couldn't beat the machine here, because it was so committed to making sure the status quo was maintained.
But the work that y'all are doing is definitely good, and because for somebody to be able to buy a home, and then what you're talking about with the co-op, so not only buy a home, but all within the same network of people and resources, buy a home, find a career. Also, you want to talk more about the co-op thing?
Yeah. So our co-op ecosystem it's another prong of our holistic strategy to anchor North Lawndale residents into the community. So what we're looking at is a model for how we do development without displacement. If you take a look at like what used to be like industrial meatpacking West Loop, and where it is now, like commercial, like real industrial. And so in that, you know, in this particular case, there weren't a ton of residents, but there were some. But where it was and where it is, and if there were, you know, if it was a community that had a bunch of residents, they would have all been displaced. And so we're trying to be we're trying to exemplify a model of how we do this work of developing communities without forcing or having to force the people who are there out. And it helps that we're doing it, you know, both my executive director and I both live in North Lawndale. Like, I'm born and raised in North Lawndale. So, you know, nothing that I do is meant to harm any of you know, my cousins. But it's a holistic strategy that we're using. And part of it is the homes. Part of it is about business development, because we recognize a couple things actually. COVID was the best example of what happens when a business that is in a location for its own benefit, when the circumstances around it change. Many businesses closed and never opened up again. Because they were like, the table has shifted and the profits aren't the same. We're out.
We're going to cut our losses.
And we're out.
For business investment.
Yeah. But now if you live in a community and also own a business in a community, you're much more likely to stick out and weather the hard times, to open back up, to be a service provider in those situations. And all of the research has shown that, you know who hires black people in companies? Black people, right? And so we need businesses in North Lawndale that are owned locally so that they're more resilient and more willing to weather storms that happen, but also owned by the demographic in the neighborhood, which is black people, because we hire us. So in that work, we are, you know, hiring interns right now. We do everything from community canvassing, because we are an organizing organization, right? We get in these streets, we talk to people, we pull folks together, we find leaders in the community who want to do this work with us, and with them, we've built a cohort of folks who have just incorporated themselves as Lifting Lawndale Cooperative, and it's the first homegrown co-op in North Lawndale that is launching 3 businesses: a construction company, a chocolate making company, and a print making company. And, you know, look out for more in the years to come. But these businesses are, you remember the B Corp designation that people were talking about a couple years ago? It was like really popular. Point is, they're like triple bottom line companies where you have a social mission, which is to give back, to do good, to be
triple
good.
Bottom line. So,
Yeah. To be good stewards in your community.
All right.
But then you know, obviously you have some attention to your profits, and you want to make money because you want to build that wealth for the cooperative members, for the business owners.
Right.
Who are also the employees.
Like, what you mean by triple bottom line is because, like, usually when we talk about like big companies and we say the bottom line, we're talking about
Triple bottom line is about that social mission. It's about a company that is looking at how it can put good into the world and do good for the world, right? Yeah.
That's dope.
So super excited to, you know, this is one of my, like, the projects we're doing that's closest to my heart. I was in undergrad and studying abroad in Central America, and I was in like El Salvador and Nicaragua and Guatemala, and I was like visiting different rural communities. We had gone up a mountain or something to visit a particular coffee bean production co-op community. Everybody lived around, they all, you know, worked together to grow coffee beans, but they also did everything else in the line of production. They dried them, they packaged them, they market them, they were free trade, fair trade. They were competing with like Starbucks and like in the open market to send their beans out. And, you know, they're on the side of a mountain in like El Salvador. And I was like, if we can do this here, we can do this in North Lawndale. And the plight is the same, like poverty and lack of access to resources. It's just different languages, different people, same problems. And so that's when I knew that I wanted to be able to bring that model back to North Lawndale. And then going to law school in DC gave me an opportunity to work as a student attorney with faith-based co-ops coming out of churches in DC and Black communities. And I was like, okay, for real, this is it. This is up, right? And so we've been doing this work for 3 years now. It's culminated in this entity actually getting, registered and incorporated, and we have about almost 20 people who've gone through year-long trainings, like a year and 6 months of training, and they've been working on understanding what a co-op is, how do they work, the legacy of Black people in this country with co-ops, and it's rich. It goes way back. Like, coming together to build something out of nothing has always been the Black way. And so, co-ops sound like this fancy word, but it's really just collective economic.
It's not like a susu type of thing.
It's the same thought process.
Okay.
It's how can we help each other and help ourselves? Yeah.
And it makes sense because everybody sees it's the transparency of it. It's the transparency of it, the self-respect aspect of it.
It's the recognition that we need to do it for ourselves because no one else is going to do it for us. And part of it is like, I watched COVID happen and people lost their jobs left and right. And I was like, it's always, the saying is, when America gets a cold, Black people get the flu. We always get it worse. And so part of it is wanting to put some buffer around the people I love so that when the worst is happening outside of our North Lawndale bubble, we have some protection. We have each other that we can rely on and do business together. And I'm hoping it grows. I'm hoping we can, start a bank together and,
That's dope. Thicken the membrane, basically, like in our communities, and make it so that it's harder for things to leave the cell and harder for bad things to get in the cell.
Come on. Invest in yourself.
Door open. Hey, this door is open? No,
I be looking at some of these trades making $70 an hour, $200 an hour. Learn me a trade.
That's why, and you hit me with something earlier. I was like, man, that the construction is good, but you want to get in the union. You know what I'm saying? You were like, well, yeah, that's good, but you got to think about it. If you want to unionize, you want to help people get into a union that's like more sustainable.
On your body.
Because I'm a laborer, and I work really hard every day. I do various things, mix concrete, do this, do that. But
and it's beautiful because those are real living wage jobs in a time where those are disappearing. Talking about a pension, like what? People don't get that opportunity anymore. But we have to think long term too, right? The relationship between Black Chicagoans and the unions has been a fraught one. And unfortunately, the access to less arduous, body intensive work hasn't always been there. And it's
still not there. I talk to guys, I know guys that are 60 years old still working. They could have retired years ago and they still working because they don't have enough points in their pension plan to retire off of because they haven't been able to keep work consistently enough through their career where their points could accumulate in the sense that it's consistent.
I think the market has realized that there is a cliff coming in construction in Chicago because we don't have enough young people willing to go into it. And because it was so difficult, they moved all of the trade schools outside to the suburbs when they all used to be in the high schools. You used to go
vocational schools and stuff like that.
Vocational schools were a thing. Dunbar was a vocational school. And so you could start early and you can see where you want it to be really early. And there just aren't those pathways that are easily accessible anymore. And companies have seen the writing on the wall that if you want to have a population of talent, you got to build it yourself because the traditional avenues aren't working anymore. So it's one of those things that it's kind of like gatekeeping to your own demise because people are going to figure out a way around it.
I mean, definitely they're going to figure out a way around it. I know people, I know people who are in the union right now, and they say stuff like, yeah, you know, I got in like this, or I got in like that. And it's like, none of them are saying things like, I got in through the application process. Like,
You know, being from Chicago, in the time that I grew up, I have to give a lot of credit for being an 80s baby. I think, you know, my bubble growing up was thick. I felt loved, I felt protected, I felt safe, I felt like I had freedom, and all of those things together. You know, I felt like I had people trying to grow me as a person, as a woman. You know, there was certainly some people who poured heavily into me. Teachers, Ms. Hawthorne, Ms. Smith, after school workers.
and it's like high school teachers, grammar school, what?
Oh my God, so many high school, Miss Cross, Miss Vessel, Mr. Horan, Mr. Kelly, Stonewall, like Miss Polajic, like so many people, Miss Bass,
What school you went to?
Sonia. I went to NLCP, and I went to Penn for undergrad. I went to Penn for elementary, William Penn, and then I went to NLCP for high school. But it meant that I feel like I had a very magical, very just joy-filled upbringing. And that's not to say it wasn't hard. That's not to say, you know, the lights wasn't off sometimes. That's not to say I didn't see people experiencing addiction and all that comes with it, because I did. And it was right there too. But it wasn't ever to the level that I felt like all the positive stuff meant so much more to me. And the negative things just made me want to do all that I could to help the folks around me who I love so much. And I think that, you know, I like to think in my head that my instincts to help come from my dad, but my commitment to North Lawndale comes from my mom, because she was born and raised here. And she just knew everybody, and everybody knew her. They called her white girl. Like, my mom's name was Gwen, but I grew up in a time where there were families, like family names meant something. It was this set of family, that set of family, you know, those like anchor families where it was like 52 of them and you didn't fight none of them because you ain't want to fight all of them. Like, but we were all close, and it was, it felt like real community, and I could play outside without supervision because there was no such thing as without supervision. Everybody's watching, everybody's paying attention, everybody's making sure you're safe. And when people wanted to do whatever they wanted to do, they made sure that the kids got off the block and like, y'all need to be somewhere else. You need to find something else to do. This ain't it, you know, whatever. But I want to recreate that, the best of those things for the community through the work that I do now. I'm just trying to find all the ways that I can make sure it happens. The work I do it comes from that place of love and gratitude, heavy on the gratitude for how I got to grow up and everything that was given to me.
And you used the word earlier, and I want to say it right now because that sounds like this word, holistic.
Yeah.
It's like 360, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is where I started, and it's like I see myself here, and it's like, okay, before I go through this circle again, and I recognize this circle, let me tweak it a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Let me make this next trip for somebody else just a little bit better. Yeah. You can find out more about the work that I do at lcdc.net. lcdc.net. We are on Instagram at, forgive me because I'm going to look this up, at, I think, LCDC 60623. And you can find out more about the co-op work we do at LCDC Cooperative, also on Instagram. Of course, we have Facebook, and it's just Lawndale Christian Development Corporation on Facebook. And please reach out if you want your young people to be involved in our internship. If you are looking for rental housing, we own and operate something like 250 units of affordable rental. If you are looking for an opportunity to become a homeowner, if you're interested in becoming a collective entrepreneur with us and doing the co-op work with us, reach out. If you're interested in just being a leader in the community and helping as a person who cares deeply about this neighborhood and want to be involved, come organize with us. We always need more people and more leaders who are interested but also willing to put their time and energy into making the community a better place.